Hi everyone, we're the Uleps. My name is Sharon.
I'm Dan.
I'm Giselle.
And I'm Bryce.
And this is our dog Gemma. Dan and I have been asked to be the head of the stewardship campaign this year, and so we're coming to you in video form to talk a little bit about stewardship and some of the things that are on deck this year. On September 14th, we all received a Multiply Your Faith card in our worship bulletin. I thought this was a really interesting card and really gave us all some food for thought on how we can multiply our faith. I've asked our family to get together and talk a little bit about it and think about what we might want to do to multiply our faith this year. So, anybody have any ideas from the card what you might want to do to multiply your faith this year?
What does this mean here? The consciously tithing 10% of 1 week's income for a designated purpose? What does that mean?
So that's a really interesting choice. Conscious tithing. So tithing is biblical, and tithing is actually means giving 1/10. And it's sort of the idea where you give 1/10 of your income back to the church or back to God. The idea of consciously tithing 10% of 1 week's income for a designated purpose means that you would take what is your 10% and think about where would you want to give that to the church. So it's kind of a challenge, I think, to have everyone think about what is your 10% for this week?
$2.
And if you were to take your 10%, where would you give it to the church? So, since you asked, $2. Bryce, where would you give your $2 to the church?
I would give my money to the hospitality area in the church because I don't know if I'm just speaking for myself, but I really like food. So I thought it was a good idea to have the frozen custard and the cider milk donuts inside in the morning to welcome people to our church.
That's a great idea. Giselle, if you were to take your 10%, where would you want to designate that for the church?
Probably the youth mission. There's not a lot of we do a lot of mission trips in the church for the youth, but not a lot for the grades 5 through high school. We did the Costa Rica trip recently, but it was kind of expensive and there weren't a lot of spots. I was thinking maybe we could have more trips that are more affordable and have more people who are able to do it and can help people in really tangible ways.
Dan, where do you think you'd give your tithe?
Well, I was thinking of the budget and realized that building and grounds is quite a large portion of that budget. And I think a lot of people don't realize that that line item covers such a wide range of things within the church. So I think that's where I would put my tithe.
So it is interesting because when we're thinking about giving for this year, it's giving towards the operating budget of the church. And the operating budget is what keeps the doors open and lights on and things going. For me, I think the most important part of my experience at church is worship. And so I'd probably take my 10% tithe and designate it for worship and worship arts, particularly music. As many of you know, I like to sing. But I think music and preaching and the regular worship services are probably where I'm fed most from our church. So that's where I would designate my tithe. There's a lot of other things on this card that are pretty interesting. Things like helping someone find their voice or learning the names of 5 children or youth that you didn't know before. So take a few minutes and look at that multiply card and maybe think about how you can multiply your faith. Meanwhile, as the stewardship chairs, we just wanted to let you know that you'll be getting your pledge card in the mail here in the month of October, and our day to bring those back to church is Sunday, October 25th. Think about where you would designate your giving this year to support the operating budget of the church, and what's important to you, what means something to you that the church gives back. We look forward to coming back to you in video form in a few other weeks here, and we hope that you'll think about your designated tithe at this time. Thanks. Bye.